I'm a MD educated at University of Copenhagen in Denmark. I'm a specialist in oncology, and I'm employed at the University Hospital in Copenhagen, Rigshospitalet, where I'm in charge of treating bladder cancer patients in the department of oncology. I spent quite a long journey focusing on bladder cancer, but before working with bladder cancer, I was dedicated to research in lung cancer for 15 years. I've been working in the lab myself, working with mechanisms of metastasis and dissemination of lung cancer with special focus on proteolysis. When I started working in oncology in the beginning of the 90s, that we did in Europe not use systemic treatment for bladder cancer at all. Around 2000, I became the head of the treatment team of lung cancer. At that time, I took in some bladder cancer research protocols. I started getting interested in bladder cancer, so I've been a researcher and investigator in some of the early protocols investigating the potential of platinum in metastatic bladder cancer. It caught my interest. It has a lot of similarities to metastatic lung cancer. And from that point, I started focusing more on bladder cancer than on lung cancer. And from 2007, I simply left my work with lung cancer and dedicated all my focus to bladder cancer. And ever since, I worked with bladder cancer, performing clinical research within this very interesting field. From a bladder cancer physician's perspective, we are at a crossroad. So last year at the ESMO conference in Madrid in Spain, there were some really positive results on bladder cancer treatment. And what I'm thinking about there is the combination of immunotherapy and enfortumab vedotin in first line. However, as every scientist working within the field will know, there's quite a delay before this kind of very positive research results hit daily practice. So we are not there yet in Europe. Presently, we are still, you could say, in the old scenario of bladder cancer treatment. So presently, when treating metastatic bladder cancer, we are using platinum-based chemotherapy as first line. For those with a kidney function which allows it, meaning GFR about 60 mL per minute, we administer cisplatinum in combination with gemcitabine, a good old well-known regimen for this disease. We deliver 6 cycles of combination chemotherapy to our patients in order to achieve a response rate around 65%, corresponding to a median survival of 14 months. In this population, if patients progress during this combination chemotherapy, we shift to immunotherapy, and presently in the Danish setting, we use atezolizumab. Some countries will use pembrolizumab. The effect should be more or less similar of these two agents, which are interacting with the same biological pathway, the PD-1, PD-L1 interaction. And in Europe, we had, prior to immunotherapy, introduced a second-line treatment with vinflunine, which have never been improved in the States, but has been improved by EMA in Europe. And we will, if patients have had cisplatin-based chemotherapy and immunotherapy, in those which have good performance status and not are suffering from severe comorbidity, we will be able to proceed with vinflunine as third-line therapy, together with our Swedish colleagues from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. We have performed a real-world experience study showing that in those selected patients for third-line therapy with vinflunine, we can achieve the same response rates and survival benefits as originally presented in the second-line registration study. So presently, that is shortly what we do in metastatic bladder cancer. This whole field is, of course, a challenging field, because now you heard me talk about it, and I actually only talk about very few drugs. I talk about platinum-based combination chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and that's more or less that. Of course, there was the vinflunine, but it's for a small fraction of the patient, and it's not very effective. So we have very few effective drugs for this population, and that's of course challenging. As we have proceeded with immunotherapy, we have seen more long-time survivors. It's only few patients, but there are now also long-time survivors from bladder cancer, which are actually quite fit when they progress after a long period on immunotherapy, or even after period free of any treatment. And these patients might be fit for other treatments, but we have no validated treatments in this population. And what we've seen in other cancers is that treatment landscape is emerging, and there are continuously introduced new targeted therapies. I at the beginning spoke about my old research interest, lung cancer, and you now see a very differentiated treatment landscape in lung cancer based on biological profiles and the use of personalized medicine. And I think bladder cancer has kind of taken over the role which lung cancer had 15 years ago, where everyone called lung cancer kind of the forgotten oncological disease, because while breast cancer and prostate cancer at that point were racing on the track of new treatments, then nothing happened with lung cancer. Now it's bladder cancer, which is kind of stuck, while other treatments and diagnoses are emerging and offering patients with other diagnoses a very differentiated and personalized approach. And it's especially a problem because the bladder cancer population is changing. 10 years ago, a bladder cancer patient was an old man who had been smoking heavily and who had a lot of comorbidity and who hadn't taken really good care of himself. But nowadays, what we see is that a bladder cancer patient can actually be someone who looks more like a prostate cancer patient. It can be someone who is still actively working, having a social life full of activities, being fit, physically active, and so on. So patients are also expecting much more when it comes to treatment because they're fit for treatment, and we need new treatments which can help bladder cancer patients live longer and better. I've been happy to see the activity within the scientific field of bladder cancer, focusing really a lot on trying to map genomic changes in bladder cancer patients and searching for new targets. And to some point, this research has been disappointing because that bladder cancer is difficult to work with. It's a very heterogenetic disease. I am a big fan of Professor Joachim Belmont from Dana-Farber Cancer Center, who has never given up the challenge of fighting bladder cancer. He's persistently been trying to understand the biology of bladder cancer, and I think he's been a great inspirator to other bladder cancer researchers to go on trying to search for new targets. My own research group has a really good collaboration with people from Harvard and from Dana-Farber, and we have recently been focusing on PTGR1 and NER deficiency, and it's been a really interesting journey to look into this. And what we see is that a fraction of bladder cancer patients has PTGR1 expression, and it seems to be coupled to survival. And from biological perspective, it could be also a very interesting target for further treatment, as NER deficiency from biological findings in bladder cancer also seems to be something worthwhile to look further into as a target for upcoming treatment. So that's some of the things we are presently looking at. We think that it is very, very important to go on searching for new possible targets, and it's of course a challenge because continuously there will arise new theories within this field, but we do believe that it could be worthwhile to follow the PTGR1 and the NER deficiency track and try to investigate if this in a clinical context could be worthwhile to target for selected patients, because so far there have been limited researchers which have taken the challenge to work with selected populations, as you also heard me presenting. Then we do not work to a very high extent with selected patients for specific treatments. It's one treatment fit all. Wow. And probably it's unable to achieve new promising results if we go on to work like that. We have to look more differentiated into the patient population and search for specific targets which we have drugs to interact with. The problem is that bladder cancer is luckily not one of the cancer diseases with the highest incidence. And therefore, when you then also have a small percentage of patients having an active target, then it, of course, in numbers come down to a smaller amount of patients. But nevertheless, if we want to improve survival for our cancer patients, I think this is the road to follow. We have to accept that every patient is an individual which deserves individual personalized treatment based on their genomic or biological profile. You know, I had the possibility previously to be a sub-investigator in a study with the drug ifulven, which also targets PTGR1. So I do know a little about the clinical experience on this. That study was in prostate cancer. So I myself tried to treat patients with ifulven. I'm aware that Lantern have now optimized on this drug, and you are now working with the agent LP-184, which target near-deficient PTGR1 positive patients, and we are very hopeful in trying to set up a clinical study where we, based on our methodologies for selecting patients with near deficiency and PTGR1 positivity, can try to treat these patients with LP-184. And we would be very happy to try this out in a phase 1 study, because I think this is important, of course, to this specific target drug interaction, to investigate that in real life in the bladder cancer population. But I think it's also very, very important to show the medical community that bladder cancer patients should also have the opportunity to get targeted therapies. And only by having companies like your company and researchers like me and my team who are taking that challenge and doing studies like this in bladder cancer, we can move this field forward and show that this is the way to go also for bladder cancer patients. So coming back to what I just said, that bladder cancer patients also deserve personalized treatment. So I look very much forward to set up a study where we can try to investigate the safety of delivering LP-184 in bladder cancer patients, and probably also get some early information on response rates, which can help us move forward and design even more important clinical studies with targeted drugs in bladder cancer.